Welcome everyone to another Win by Noon Monday webinar now at 12 noon Pacific time. Thank you all for the time change and being here. And even Deborah Bird, my co-host, had to change her time schedule to be part of this new time frame. Welcome, Deborah.
It actually worked out great, especially today, because I will be on a plane headed to Portland to freeze my butt off because I'm used to the Texas weather. But I will be in Portland.
There?
No, it's raining right now and it's like 40 degrees.
Oh,
but here it's
Portland.
Like 77-ish.
Well, so talk about that. So you're going up there as part of Plug and Play, and so I believe you're going up there to a friend of mine's place. So what when you are traveling like that, what are people hiring you to do?
I'm actually glad you asked because it's been really effective. But so we serve loan officers, largely, and they are the loan officers who are wanting to reconnect or reestablish relationships with the real estate agents that they serve. They basically hire me to come out and teach a social media strategy class. It can really go in any direction that they want, whether it's building out the marketing calendar or we just focusing on maybe Instagram and YouTube shorts. But the loan officers fill the room, and it's been pretty easy to fill those rooms. I think real estate agents need and want help right now, and it's not the typical loan officer presentation, and not anything against those, but just it's not going over seller buy down strategies or loan programs or products. It's truly designed around how do we help agents get more business where they are attracting people through social and not just chasing, which, no one likes to be chased. So there's several different topics and courses that I can go over. And, it's usually market specific. So usually the loan officer and I will strategize of what's going to be most effective and valuable for the people that are there. And I always get, knock on wood, just great feedback. A lot of it is hands-on. I want them to leave with an actual plan of how they can implement the things that they've learned, because without a plan it usually doesn't get done. And then we do a follow-up sequence where there's emails that will go out of just little bite-sized nuggets of how to do a reel from start to finish, how to set up your favorites feed, how to do the new iOS feature for those who have phones. You can now make it super easy to put Facebook birthdays right on your lock screen so you can wish happy birthdays. So it's little things like that they will continue to get support for 4 weeks after the class, because that's what I didn't like is sometimes you would go and everyone would get real excited or motivated. And then after the class, it's like, where's the accountability? That's why we need the real estate edition social media Win by Noon planner, because it will help give them focus and check off of what to do each day.
Well, all right. So there's a lot of nuggets to unpack. So first off, if someone wants to get information on hiring you to come out, email which email address?
marketing@plugandplaysm.com.
Perfect. All right, let's start there. I think that's a great piece. And, I just love it. It's funny because we've obviously teased it out here in our market since we've been talking about hiring you to fly out and do that and do a content day with my team. So I think it's a great feature. And I think that the fact that you've built in that 4 weeks of accountability is big, but think about it. If you're a loan officer here, think about it. You're creating a reason to follow up with those real estate agents and continue to build on the value that you've already given them by having Deborah come out and speak. So I think that's super cool. And yes, you're teasing the fact that I think you and Adam are supposedly working on that real estate version of the.
It's in Adam's hands now.
All right, well, that's good. We're doing a last printing, I think in 2 weeks. We actually have a special because we just inked a very large deal with a very large coaching organization. So we're doing another large run of Win by Noon. So if anyone also wanted to get custom branded planners, it'd be last minute right before the holidays, reach out to Adam at Win by Noon. So, all right, that's enough commercials. Anything else you want to add to that before we talk about what we're going to talk about over the next 25 minutes?
No, other than, this is the time of year where a lot of people are starting to think of vision casting and business planning. And so if you are someone that is going to gift a real estate agent something, those planners would be a great kickoff to your December agent mastermind, where everyone could show up and you could have the planner sitting out for them, make it a tight group, and then vision cast and really get clear of what the first quarter is going to look like of next year and what activities could everyone commit to. To me, there's no better time to start these conversations than before the year starts, because if something's worth changing, you might as well change it now.
No, I love that. I love that. And certainly I appreciate the fact you bring it up. You can use the planner for it. Just remember, we have the free Win by Noon business planning tool, which is really a better version of what I used to use for years and years when I would go into real estate companies and title companies to teach. We'll have the updated version. You just go to winbynoon.com/business planning tool. We put out one every single quarter. We put out a quarterly planner so that you have something to go out there. And I'm revising it right now. So it's not up. We normally get up by the 15th of, 45 days. We normally get it by the halfway point. So in theory, it's supposed to be up next week, assuming that I finish my to-do on my to-do list, which means it probably will be done because, now that I put it out there, I'd feel like a fool if I did not help you all out, whether you're a real estate agent or a loan officer watching this. We have a plan for you that is free. All right, so set us up. So you sent me this really cool article yesterday with all these cool pictures. And I said, hey, let's just make that what we talk about today, because I think it's really valuable to our real estate agents who watch this, as well as our loan officers who want to add value to their real estate agents.
So full disclosure, NAR just recently published their 2022 profile of home buyers and home sellers. Now it is 142 pages long. And I just put in the chat a much shorter version of that, where they basically took the 11 top takeaways from the report. Now, the other thing to note is the data that was pulled from this was from July of 2021 to June. So unfortunately, it was right before the market really started shifting, when interest rates started to increase. So some of these may not be super surprising when you've lived through just the market in the last year. But so the first one was first-time buyers dropped to an all-time low of 26%. So that the first-time homebuyer group fell from 34%.
Look at that. I'm sharing the screen. It makes it look like we almost planned together.
Good. Wow.
Well, so here's the interesting part of it is that, so I read through this morning, and even though we're looking at this from a pre-interest rate skyrocketing lens, I actually think some of these are going to be even more exaggerated by where interest rates are now. I actually feel like first-time buyers for the second half of the year so far, for Q3 and the first part of Q4, I think have to be even worse.
Oh yeah, I would agree. And it made me think of, I don't know if you saw that post that I made yesterday. I think it was yesterday, may have been Saturday, it was a meme. And, it showed which is better, buying a home 100,000 over list price at the start of the year versus now, where it could be 50,000 under sales price at the higher rate. Did you see that one? And all
I saw comments? You caused a big hubbubaloo, but you created this big hubbubaloo of people because you're like, hey, give me some data on this, folks. I love that.
Well, and for the record, I wasn't saying I literally put in the caption that nobody read, please prove or disprove using data, because I do think we need to get better at using data when we're advising. But that post alone just really showed how many different narratives or perspectives even the industry has, whether you're a real estate agent or a loan officer. One, I learned a lot from other people of different perspectives that I may not have thought about, but it also shows that we are lacking education, not only to our industry peers, but also how are we getting this information out to first-time home buyers so they are making more informed decisions, or maybe even the repeat buyers. So I don't know if you saw on that second graph of the median age of home buyers, did you see that big spread? And maybe you could show it on your screen if you want.
Let's just show it. Hang on one second.
Yeah.
Let me go back to it right here. Oh no, it wants me to show my desktop. I don't want to see that. I want to show Google Chrome.
So it said for repeat buyers, the age has risen to 59 years, up from 56 in the last year's report. But it shows you from 1981. I just feel like this is fascinating to see how these lines have changed over the years. And for the first-time home buyers, it's not a huge gap or huge difference from 29 to 36. So for the first-time home buyers last year, it was age, I want to say 33. Yeah, 33. And now the average age is 36. But look at it for the repeat, 59.
Oh, that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? So I thought that was very interesting. But as you're looking, the reason why the meme came to my mind is because depending on each person's scenario or big picture, it's like, how are you giving good advice that's not cookie cutter? Using today's data and using evidence from the past. Of obviously none of us can predict the future. Nobody knows what in anything that we do, but you still have to use data and just history to be able to help guide people to make the most informed decisions that they possibly can. But so many people are saying you can't guarantee rates are going to drop. I'm like, correct, but we still have to go off of what we know from professionals. Like if I were going to go to a doctor and I have to get a surgery, I'd like to know what are the possible chances and of X, Y, and Z, and then allow me to make the decision. But anyways, that's my tangent on that meme.
I like your tangent. All right. So number 3 is with regards to ethnicity of buyers. And again, I think this just is, super interesting. Obviously, some people are going to, look at this and say, what I think is the obvious, how do we get more minorities to be buying, homes? And, definitely when I see statistics like this, I'm always surprised.
Well, and I think that's why, Fannie and Freddie, I believe they just announced the new, I think it's the FICO model 10T. I know they're accepting the new FICO model. I don't know if all lenders are using it yet, but I think that was in efforts to try to help close that wealth gap from minorities that, maybe using rent history for those who have been renting, which they showed was statistically, Africans and Hispanic populations were shown renting and just not having a whole lot of credit or even a credit score. So I think there's some things that the industry is working on to try to help with that wealth gap. But that's also why Plug and Play came out with the Spanish edition content, because there just really isn't a lot of resources for, bilingual loan officers or real estate agents out there to help reach a demographic that, communication's key. They can't read the posts, and how are you going to reach them?
Well, and I think, yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I feel like there's 2 parts of it, right? One is the education gap is a big part of it. And then you can certainly say that there's an income gap in a lot of areas, which is, unjustified and unfair. But ultimately, I think that, I'd like to say that, yes, go out there and, tomorrow's voting day, go out there and vote. And then, that'll certainly, deal with some parts of that. But I think when it comes to the education piece, that's what us in the real estate and loan mortgage world, that's our job. We should be educating people on, what you just said, building wealth with home ownership. And I feel like that's where, we have to look at and say, how can we do a better job? I love the fact that you've got Spanish speaking, Spanish translated social. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So next was kind of interesting because the next 2 kind of go together, and this is where our buyers buying. And we saw this happen right when COVID hit, right? Where, my daughter was moving to Manhattan, and all of a sudden an apartment that was $5,000, you could rent for $3,000 because everyone was living out in the burbs.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it too is the affordability of the small towns, especially as rates have increased. I'm curious how this will look a year from now on how much people are even willing to drive further, just,
Because of gas.
no, but because it's cheaper to live in those small towns. Usually, like for us here, when you go further out from the city, you're going to have more affordable housing. And for those who are really motivated to get out of the rent trap, especially when they can't control their rents and the rent increases, I think they're willing to make some sacrifices. I know I think I sent you another article. I was texting Dan Keller over the weekend too, and we were going back and forth on a bunch of data while I was sitting in between baseball games. And it showed how Gen Z and millennials, their purchasing behavior differences, and it showed what each group is willing to make sacrifices on versus, in order to reach their goals. And so I think we're going to see this continue to increase.
So this is where I love, this is the yin and yang of Todd and Deborah. And think about this from your own perspective. Like, where did you go? So again, you went to affordability, and I went to COVID migration, which, may make more sense that the COVID migration was the year before. But I still feel like there was a lot of that last year. And so think about this in your world, and then how can you look at it from the other direction? And so one of the things that I'm trying to do in my personal life is be a little more curious and ask better questions. And so again, it's, I'm looking at these slides. Deborah and I didn't talk about it ahead of time, and I'm interpreting them one way, and she's interpreting them a different way. And so this is really important. These are great questions for you to be asking your clients. If you're a loan officer, these are great questions for you to be asking your real estate agents, because, again, people purchased houses in different areas. Now, this was the other one that was super interesting. I mean, look at this number of how far now people have moved. Like I heard a statistic years ago, and maybe there's someone here who's watching this who knows the real statistic, but I heard that the average person never moves more than like, maybe it's this 15 miles from their childhood home. I mean, literally, I still live, I bet it's probably pretty close, maybe 20, but from where the house that I moved to in the 70s, back when I was a youngster, before Deborah was born. And so I think about that. I look at it, my older brother lives a mile from there. My parents moved to get away from my older brother. They live maybe 5 miles from there. My younger brother, maybe he's pushing the envelope, 15, 20 miles away from where they grew up. And so this is a huge jump, but obviously matches up to that previous slide.
Yeah. And, when you think about all that happened, with depending on how close you were to the city, and I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of the word right now, where people go
Drive till you qualify.
no, when they're protesting, all the things that had occurred just with, anyways, I wonder if this will help with future home purchases of if it was a first time home buyer that was moving. I wish they had this broken down per age group of the distance, but maybe we'll start to see parents then try to move closer to their children if their children start having kids. So who knows? Maybe this could be a good statistic here.
So we have this big, huge mecca called Maricopa County in Arizona and Phoenix, which is all these cities. And it's the whole adage was you drive till you qualify, right? So people were having to drive out further, but it was kind of interesting. My wife and I went to this furniture outlet mall maybe just 2 months ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was, serious, almost an hour drive from my house. It's way past, everything. And I was like, wow, look at all these houses for sale. And I pull up my phone and I look, and they're $500,000-$600,000 houses, which is, kind of the neighborhood that I live in currently. And I thought to myself, wow, I kind of expected that if I was going to drive this far away from what I would call, my personal realm of civilization, that, houses were 300,000 to 400,000. And so that's not today what it's like. But I also feel like when we had pricing decrease in 2008 to 2010, it impacted those outer areas more than it impacted the inner areas. That's people move back into the city faster than they move back out to those other areas. But those other areas have amazing amenities, right? Like they have, they're brand new. They have, community pools and, beautiful neighborhoods and parks in every corner. And, they're just really great amenities as well.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is here. At one point, I think at the second home that we owned, we went a little further out. And a lot of that was because of the school district too, which I think it was in one of these paragraphs about what drives people to certain locations. And obviously neighborhoods are a huge part of it. And like you said, if you could get more amenities, or it's a little bit newer, maybe, we had energy efficient homes built. So we went further out, and I enjoyed driving into work, going through, passing cows. It was just peaceful until you get to the tollway. Because now Frisco, Plano area, we call it the mini Dallas. It's like everyone used to drive to downtown Dallas to go to all these headquarters, and that's where you would go to work. Frisco, Plano is really become, there's a lot of new headquarters that have joined that area, and it's become real congested and just,
So again,
everywhere.
all of you need to be running this through your filter and be talking to your, in your community about it, and, see how it impacts you. So now these next couple are, kind of interesting, right? All cash offers up to 27%. So I know my take on it. What's your take on that, Deborah?
That people were trying to win deals because it was so competitive. So, you didn't want to wait for your house to sell. Maybe you just wanted to secure the home that you wanted, and then you were going to sell, is what I thought.
And I was thinking, the California person who wanted to leave California sold their house that, went up from 200,000 to $2 million, or, half 500,000 to $1.5 million. And then they have just a ton of cash to come to, they were coming to Phoenix and they were paying cash for houses because they made so much money selling their other homes. But I think it's probably a combo of both. All right, we got 10 minutes, so we got to get you on the road, and we got 4 more of these. So that's perfect. We got 2.5 minutes. This was one of the ones that was super interesting to me, especially when we look at the next slide. I'm gonna slide it down so you can't see the next slide yet. So tenure, people are back to 10 years in a house, but I think that's just sort of the market that we were in, right? With all those bidding wars last year, I could just see how that would frustrate people, and why they wouldn't want to move. What are your thoughts?
I was thinking too, because of COVID, either they like in 2020. So before this report started in June 2021. So to me, if they were gonna sell, they would have already sold in the year prior. So those who were recommitting to their home probably remodeled and fell in love with the home that they were in, got the lower interest rate, and were gonna stick it out, is what came to my mind when I saw this.
All right. Well, then I thought of this next one, which I think it kind of goes hand in hand with that. It says that the expected tenure for first-time buyers hits an all-time high of 18 years, up from 7 in 2007. So, I mean, that's just from 21 to 22. Now they think they're going to live in, first-time buyers think they're going to live there forever. What are your thoughts on that?
This one stumped me because I thought I would like to know what made them come up with that number, but this one really shocked me. What did
I
you think?
think I think so. As a loan officer, when I was talking to clients back in the day, and I'd say, I know you haven't haven't even moved into your home yet, but how long do you anticipate you'll live there, right? Because the average in Arizona was 5 to 7 years, and I think that people, my gut is, since this is first time buyers, if you said all buyers were 18 years, I think you have people who moved during the last 2 years, got a 2.5%, 3% loan, and are like, I'm set for life. I'm going to stay here until I retire, till I downsize, till I, whatever's that next step of their life. But I kind of feel like if a first time buyer thinks, look at that. The average was 10 years of expectation for a really long time. And all of a sudden for it to shoot to 18 years, I kind of feel like that's a little bit of not knowing what, they don't know what they don't know yet, that, they're going to have, if they're first time buyers, although we saw that the average age was older, so maybe they're a little more mature. But in the old days, first time buyer to me, they get married, they have kids, they need a bigger house, they want to move to a different school district, all the things that we mentioned a little bit earlier. So I don't know. I feel like this is a little bit too long, but certainly interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much that goes on with life events. But then again, if the average age is 36,
Yeah.
I remember when I bought my first home, I was a lot younger than that, maybe 24,
I was
23.
19, so I break the mold a little bit.
Goodness, look at you.
I did what now I teach people to do, right?
Yeah,
All
that's
right. So
great.
buyers are diversifying where they pull their down payments from. And so I'll define this, since we're going to show it quickly, is that less money is coming from savings. More money is coming from selling their home. Less money is coming from gifts, which I was kind of surprised by that one. And less money is coming from 401ks or sale of stock.
You were surprised by which one? The gifts?
I was surprised by the gifts, because I felt like, from talking to loan officers, that a lot more people were relying on gifts from family members. Again, I'm not surprised by equity from pending sale to going up, because again, we saw people selling houses with equity and making money on it.
Yeah.
So maybe
I
that's what
still feel like there's
everything else.
an education gap. I mean, even with that, you can use a gift for the down payment, or that, our loan officers were like remembering to think about that when you're in the hustle and bustle. I mean, remember this time slot, people were still inundated with refinances. So maybe forgetting to mention, like, hey, if you're struggling with down payment, don't forget your parents can gift you the funds. So I just feel like there's still a lack of education around that.
All right, well, let's educate people better, you
Yeah.
realtors and loan
Yeah.
officers. 2% of first-time buyers sold cryptocurrency, by the way.
I did.
All right, number 10, first-time buyers moving directly from family members' home into home ownership as an all-time high, right? We've joked about millennials living in their parents' basements for a long time. So good for them for getting out of the basements and getting their own place.
Yeah, which, what's important with this is just knowing your target audience and your messaging. So a lot of times we assume that most are just tired of renting. And that's a lot of the social posts that you see, the whole marry the home, date the rate, dump the rent. But the reality is a lot of people may be living rent free. They're living at home, or maybe it's a small portion of what they pay. So, it's important to qualify your clients and ask what is their motivation. And maybe the messaging needs to be tired of living with mom and dad.
Well, and
Could be, mix it in.
a big part of it to me is probably they were a big part of the first-time home buyers because they've been saving money for a down payment, right? And so think about that. If you are a parent, right, and you've got a kid in your house, right? Are they saving? Are you trying to get them out of it? Think about it. If you're a loan officer or a real estate agent, look at your sphere, look at your database. Are you educating them? If they're like, well, I'll never be able to buy a house because I can't save up a down payment. Well, guess what? The majority of first-time home buyers, the biggest jump was people who lived at home. So again, doesn't mean that they live there forever. Maybe they just move back in there for a year to save on rent in order to be able to buy a house. I asked my team about this one, and they said that absolutely they saw this quite often.
Good.
All right. Last but not least, drum roll, please. And again,
This one was one of my favorites.
All right, so let's talk about this. So this was let's read the headline: buyers and sellers use of and want help and expertise of a real estate agent. And so here's your two graphs, if I can squeeze them both on here. Right, one graph is
basically shows 88% of buyers used a real estate agent to purchase their home, which I don't think that one was as shocking, but it did say buyers were most satisfied with agents who had honesty and integrity and knowledge of the purchase process. And then on the next one, it shows that 86% used an agent to sell their home, and 63% of the sellers, so this is really important, 63% of sellers used an agent that they had worked with before or that was referred to them. So sellers mostly wanted their agent to price the home competitively and help market the home to potential buyers. But I thought 63%, I couldn't remember if that was down from the year before or not, but it just goes to show most people still struggle with the post-close nurturing process.
right. I mean, the bottom line is there's a huge gap there, whether it's better or worse. I think it's probably worse. Is if I was to gamble on it. And then the interesting part is the percentage of people who did a FSBO. And, I would say that to me, the FSBO piece is related to the market, right? It was easier to stick a sign in your yard last year when people would line up to buy it. I actually think in our market, that was because of, I'm guessing that, well, maybe not. I guess I don't know where they put iBuyers in here. My mind went first to maybe this is more, a FSBO as I sold my house to Open Door or OfferPad, but maybe they're considered a realtor as well. I guess I don't know the answer on that one.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. We could probably go to the 142 pages and find out.
Almost 10% of the homes on the market today in Phoenix are owned by Open Door. It's like actually really the biggest threat to price stability is the fact that they're really aggressive on discounting right now. They're losing money on homes and on increasing incentives to real estate agents to sell their homes. I haven't looked at it this week from Crawford Report, which is our local kind of experts on the market, but that's, they identified that maybe 2 months ago was over 10% of the market was owned by Open Door and OfferPad primarily, but Open Door was the biggie. And they're still advertising to buy houses, which is kind of crazy.
Well, and this report too, I believe, was only analyzing primary residence data. So maybe that would be a little different if it was investment. I don't know. Maybe, who knows? We'd have to go back and look at the original report.
Well, so we've got, if you're watching this in Zoom with us live, you'll see over in the chat, Deborah put a link to this report. I'll see if I can't find the 120 whatever page report. That'll be super interesting for us all to read. I'll see if I can't find that one, but I'll make sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll have this down in the notes below. We're going to get Deborah off to the airport. I'm glad you got a hood on that sweatshirt to keep your head warm. And,
yes, and it has a little spot for my hands.
Tell Walt I said hello. I've got that same one in black. So, I think I my wardrobe. Well, this is my only non-black Win by Noon sweatshirt. I couldn't find it. My wife hid it in the closet, and she's like, "Hey, I found your shirt in here. It's been sitting in the closet in case you want to wear it."
What's funny is I actually packed the black one too,
Nice.
Even though these are thinner, but I like my gear.
Well, I'm grateful that you represent. So kind of for me, for all of you, thanks obviously always for watching and being part of our Mondays. Really our goal is, we shoot for 30 minutes ish. If we have a guest, we're going, 45 to an hour, and we're going to continue to bring, hopefully things like this that'll allow you to have better conversations with your referral partners, better conversations with your clients, look for some upcoming interviews and some other excitement from Deborah and myself, and have a great week. Have a happy Veterans Day. Thanks to those of you who have served. Deborah, close it out.
Okay, so we technically have 40 business days left, guys, of the year. So we got 40 business days in 12 weeks. Let's win them. Every day, compete.
There you go. All right. Well, so I said you close it out. Now, I originally was going to title this "How to Crush the Last 2 weeks or 2 months of the Year." So 40 days. That's all you've got. I think this was better than my title. I appreciate you, Deborah, for giving me the inspiration and the idea. Be well, safe travels to you. And thanks everyone. Again, we will see you next week.
Bye.